Hello and welcome to another episode of Hoya of the Week, and today we have the beautiful Hoya paradisea. Before we start, I do have to say a couple of things. Number one, she is underwatered, so if you notice that the leaves are looking a bit not pristine, she was supposed to receive some watering recently, but I actually treated her for mealybugs. She doesn't have any, but it was sort of a preventative treatment, and I emptied the reservoir and I haven't filled it since. So we do need to do that. And second, she is all over the place. She also needs to receive a new trellising thing. Don't know what we will do with that. I'm not really sure how much it's visible, but girl is all over the place. And yeah, that is something that we will talk about later in this episode. Wow, that is really actually quite messy, but aren't we all? I think if you have been watching my videos regularly, and if you haven't, shame on you, I'm just joking. But if you have been watching my videos regularly, you know that I love Hoya paradisea. And I first have been introduced to this plant through Summer Rain Oaks' video. It always sounds so weird to me when I say Oakses, but like Summer Rain Oaks. Possessive S. Summer's video. Anyways, when I was watching Summer's video when she visited Toril, the late Toril Nyhouse in Sweden, that is the first time I saw this plant, and then it was called NS11159, which is the accession number, and it is also the accession number of my own plant as well. It didn't have a name, but it was just very beautiful, much more tame than this one, and I saw the flowers in that video, and they're absolutely stunning. And I've been wanting to get that plant ever since. It was difficult to get it in the beginning. It was quite expensive because not many people had this plant. At one point, only Toril and Natalie Simonson, who published this plant. She's the botanist who, along with Michele Roda, published this plant. So they were the only ones that had it, but of course, as it is in Hoya world, other people have discovered it as well since. This Hoya was first collected in 2011 by Natalie Simonson, and it was collected in Papua New Guinea in expedition along the Black River. At that time, and many years later, until I think 2021, it was believed that this was sort of like the only locality where the plant grows, but of course, it has become clear around 2020, 2021 that other people have this plant as well, and that they have some different looking clones, slightly different looking clones. And now it is believed that there is a larger population of this plant towards the southeast, which is the Indonesian part of Papua New Guinea. And there are, I think, 4 clones or maybe 5. I know of this one. There is allegedly a pink flower one. I have the pink flower one, but it bloomed with my friend Farah, who I got it from, and she says that the flower is white. We will see when my plant blooms how that will look like. I didn't bring it out for this video because she did have some mealybugs, so she's currently in the prison, which is the window in the hallway. Which honestly, it is the prison because plants that go there rarely come back. I will try to treat them a bit differently so they actually do come back, but I often forget or don't have time for them there. But that's not the point of this video. The point is Hoya paradisea, and it was published relatively recently in 2022. Now, I don't know why it took so long, because I think even in 2020 maybe or maybe 2019, when Summer Rain Oaks visited Toril Nyhouse, they have bloomed the plant already. But, these things probably take time. I don't actually know how long it takes for them to publish a new species. But this plant finally has its name, and it is Hoya paradisea. It was named after the diverse forests of Papua New Guinea that are sometimes called the paradise forests. And I gotta tell you that it's quite a fitting name when you look at this plant, maybe not when you look at this particular plant and the amazing trellising that hasn't been done here, but when you look at the flower and some other plants that are trellised a little bit better than my own, I think she is very well deserving of the name. This plant has been found in lowland primary forests, so that is around 100 or so meters above the sea level. So she grows in quite a warm spot, and it has been observed in kind of like filtered shade, so filtered sunlight, filtered shade, and never really in dry spots or in full sunlight. Now, for the longest time, I've been trying to bloom this plant, and I think I've had this for maybe 2 years now. Yeah, 2 years now. It's actually 2 years this month. Oh, is it your birthday? It was my birthday recently as well. Anyways, she is 2 years old now, and she has bloomed, and I think I could have bloomed her much sooner, but I just wasn't doing all the right things. And thankfully for you, you have arrived here, so you know what those mistakes are. I have tried to grow her in cooler spots in my window, and that is actually quite the opposite that you should do for this plant, because where this plant grows, the temperatures are usually around 30 degrees of Celsius, and I have written down in Fahrenheit that is 86 to 90 Fahrenheit, so 32 degrees of Celsius. And it never really gets lower than 23 degrees of Celsius, which once again is 73 to 75 degrees of Fahrenheit. So this is a plant that really likes it warm, and she will grow, but it turned out that it's quite a challenge to get her to bloom. Now, I'm not really sure why she didn't bloom last summer in my window. It is potentially because she did not have enough water, as we have observed. This reservoir goes dry actually quite quickly, so very frequently she will be left without water, but somehow she is resilient. It will make you lose some leaves if you let her dry out, and some tips of the vine, and of course the buds, but somewhat resilient to drying out. But anyway, I was making a crucial mistake there because I was trying to grow her in less temperature, thinking that cooler temperatures will trigger the blooming, maybe 18, 19 degrees of Celsius, but that's actually not the case. And it wasn't until, with the help of my friends Julie, Kennedy, and Timea Takac, both they're not both from UK, but they both live in UK, if you must know, and you mustn't, that I figured out that this plant actually needs warmth. I have moved her around from my Rudsta cabinet to my northwest facing window, to my grow tent, to my southeast facing window, and I got her to bloom in my grow tent. And even though she was there previously, she didn't bloom there in the beginning, and then I moved her to my Rudsta. We were moving her everywhere, but I was thinking that maybe she was having too much light in my grow tent, but actually I don't think that was the case, especially because later I moved her to my southeast facing window where she kind of burned a bit, but that's fine. Anyway, this plant really would like to be warm to bloom. I managed to bloom her, I think it was maybe February or March this year, maybe March, when the temperatures started to rise, and it was around 24, 25 degrees in my grow tent. Then we finally got those flowers. She tried to bloom before multiple times. Even now she has some buds. She has a lot of peduncles. There must be, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 peduncles on this plant. They're everywhere. You can see some here. I don't know. This one here. There is one here. Just everywhere, another one here. There's so many, they're just all over the place. It's not even worth it showing you all the peduncles. She's not currently in bloom. I was kind of waiting to record a video hoping that she would flower, and she did look like she would. The buds were pretty large, and then she dropped them because I did dry her out too much, and then as soon as I watered her, they said goodbye. So she's not a plant that will enjoy changes. She's a bit sensitive to that, or maybe the buds are a bit sensitive to that. The plant itself, I don't think it's sensitive. I do think my plant has potentially even a bit of mites, but what will happen? The tips will die back and she will start to branch out, and it's not really a big deal. And I actually don't think that I will even re-trellis this plant. I think I will just add sort of a trellis to this and kind of keep going up, because I don't think that it's even realistic to attempt to untangle it. I could probably just take scissors and chop it, but again, I do like this look. I've been trying to kind of get her to fill out all of these gaps, but she's just branching out everywhere, and I think we're really gonna have a mess soon. So I think it's better to just extend this trellis and help her keep going up. She will receive some trimming. I do see some yellowish vines that need to be trimmed, but we will take care of that in one of the plant chores videos. So To make the short story very long and short again, temperature. Temperature seems to be crucial for this plant to get her to bloom, to get her to keep those buds. She needs to be watered as well. She does not want to go completely dry. She will live, but you may not live to see the blooms. I'm joking. Well, you probably will, but just make sure to water her. Just get away. As we can see, she's also a very vigorous plant. She is a very aggressive grower. I will tell you that all over the place. She grabs onto everything in the grow tent. It's always, I sometimes have to rip her out to get her out because I need to get her out to shower her, to treat her. And sometimes it's really a challenge. That's why I don't really love to grow her in my grow tent, but that's where it is the warmest. And even in my window, in my southeast facing window, I think, even there, it's a very frequent, it's like in a hallway, so it's a frequent route where people pass by. It's easy for them to catch on the vines and then to just knock her over. So in that sense, it's kind of a challenge where to place her because she is going to take over. And I propagated this plant several times, luckily, and I think I need to cut her more because, once again, crazy grower. She will wrap around everything, and she's one of those Hoyas that really likes to twine. You can see just here how that's like really cuckoo, really cuckoo. We're really cuckoo. Hoyaoftheweek does the same, which I don't think has been. Why didn't I record a video on Hoyaoftheweek? I should add that to my list of Hoyas that we will highlight. Now, it is interesting about this plant. In the publication, they say she will have two different types of branches. One is the sort of vertical one that is used for climbing, and then she will put horizontal branches with very small internodes, and those are going to be flowering branches. Now, I have noticed some of that behavior on my plant, but it seems that she can bloom from both types of branches. But I have seen a lot of the plants online that are not as big or as vigorous as this one, but they have very short internodal spaces. You can see for my plant, some of them are not so short. There is like quite a bit of a distance, but she did make some branches like this one, and I think I may have a cutting someplace where I took a cutting of like one of these alleged flowering branches where it's just very close. The internodal space is very small, and those are filled with buds. Yeah, I'm just trying to look at this plant, but even, even on this one, you can see one node is here, one node is here, even though this one doesn't have the leaves, and then there is a peduncle, and then, the next one is here. So I'm not really sure how accurate that is. I'm sure that it pretty much is because it was observed in nature by botanists. But what I'm trying to say here is that I guess that plants behave differently in cultivation and in nature. So while that might be true in nature, it may not necessarily be true in cultivation. I grow this, as you can see, in a self-watering empty pot, which we don't recommend. We will fill the reservoir, and she just has a massive root system. I did want to move her from pond, but I don't think we can do that. I don't think that's going to be possible at this point. I might take some cuttings and just restart the plant completely, get a new one going, and sort of chop this one slowly. I would like to remove her from pond, but this is not a repotting situation. This is just like... And I'm not going to cut the pot. If anyone suggests, I'm not going to cut the pot. I don't care. These pots are like $4 or $5. I would much rather cut the plant because this is a weed and I want to use the pot many more times. I would definitely grow this on a trellis. I mean, I am kind of growing it on a trellis, but she's kind of growing everywhere else as well. So we will sort that out. Plant chores incoming. Plant chores incoming. And it is really a beautiful plant. The flower is spectacular, and flower is, as I said, very sensitive. If you underwater it and then water her, it will blast, the buds will blast. If it's not warm enough, the buds will blast. If you move it, the buds will blast. If you touch the buds will, well, not blast, but they will wilt. I did that. I did mess with the buds as they were growing on one of the peduncles, and they looked awful. And they were like very close to opening, so you just don't touch them. Don't touch them. This is really one of those plants that you put in your grow tent, in your wherever, let it be. don't touch it. Leave it alone. And she will want to grab on everything else. But yeah, the flower, I would say, lasts about 3 days. Now, my observation is, it's interesting. My friend Julie and I, we have different observations. For her, it's more open during the day. For me, that's not the case. As soon as the day arrives, what, daytime, light? You know what I'm trying to say. The flowers start to close slightly. They're more open during the night. I have some lovely photos that I will include in the video, and there might be a million of them, because it was stunning to see them. They're very big, the flowers. They're very nice. It's kind of flimsy, the pedicel, so, you know, if you try to manipulate them, it's kind of difficult. You know, they go all over the place. Taking photos is a bit hard for this one. But nevertheless, the flowers are very, very beautiful. They are just like hairy balloons that are slightly open, and you are not going to be disappointed. I did not detect any particular scent coming from my plant, to be honest, but it's just unnecessary because heavenly flower, just something that you have to witness. Everyone who has seen it has been floored. For the first time, they have been floored. Do you know how many Hoya flowers I showed to my family? And finally, this one floored them, and I'm like, oh, finally some respect. Truly a beautiful plant. There is some difference in the coronas. Mine is more yellow with red. I have seen flowers that have more of a greenish corona. So again, there are several different clones. I think they're probably all very vigorous. So far, that's been my experience. If you grow them well, it can be a bit challenging in the beginning to establish her. She will need not really babying, but don't really neglect her in the beginning, because then she will not grow so well. My pink one has been a bit neglected and she didn't love it. Now we are sort of on the road to recovery there, but you know, it's quite an easy plant, I would say. I wouldn't say that it's necessary for you to grow her in a grow tent or a cabinet. I think this will grow anywhere. She grew perfectly well in my southeast facing window, and there is maybe 50% of humidity there. It was a bit too much of the light for her, but even then she took it pretty well. In cooler temperatures and in more light, she will get reddish leaves, so both cooler temperatures and high light will do it. I've discussed this before. This quote-unquote sun stressing doesn't only happen because of the light, but also lower temperatures. So my plant was actually pretty nice color in the winter, but then I decided to move her to my tent to finally get her to flower. I would not try this in a non-self-watering pot. She can be very thirsty, or if you can just make sure to water her every other third day. She needs quite a lot, especially like larger plants with well-developed root systems. Other than that, I would just like choose a self-watering pot for this plant, and then you can be a bit more relaxed with the watering. Once again, I have one in pon. The other one was started in pon, but I moved her to bark, moss, and pumice, and it's doing really well in that mix. It's taking off, but it's been slowed down a bit by the mealybugs. So hopefully in the future, I will bring that to you in a video as well, so we can see if she will actually be pink or not. But I noticed that in higher light, the closer to the light she is, the flower will be more pink tinted. It will not be fully white. Otherwise, it's a white flower. But in any case, it's just a Hoya that is worth all the trouble and all the space that she is going to take in your collection, whether you like it or not. She ain't gonna ask. That is all that I have to say for Hoya paradisea. Highly recommend it. You should try her out. I don't think she's difficult, except difficult to manage in sort of this trellising thing. I know it's gonna be a mess when I attempt to sort of tame this plant, and I think even, you know, she will quickly take over another trellis when I extend it, but future Miro problems, right? Always leave problems for your future version of yourself. That is the takeaway from this video. That is all for today. I hope that you enjoyed this installment of Hoya of the Week, and I will see you next Wednesday with a different Hoya. Bye-bye. I would like to take some time to thank all of my patrons for their incredible support. A massive shout out to my $5 patrons. My 3 anonymous patrons, Alex von Siebenthal, Amber Clear, Anne Margaret Moen, Angela Bernard, Angela Parrish, and C. Aspen Drake, Betsy, Bougie Panda, Brett Noble, Candy Tap, Catherine Molina, Christy Claire Cola, Daniela, Danube Daniel, Staria Kaminska, Dili Heredia, Deanne Sikorsky, Dipanjali Rao, E. the W, Erin Keenan, Ellen Saxon, Ellen, M. Morton, Gentle, Farah, Gathering Moss, Gina Geise, Go Green Tropical, Heather Oppenkamp, Hoji Scott, Hoya Heather, Yana Griffin, Jessica Chia, Yavin Denot, Kara, Catherine P, Casey Gross, Kelly Cook, Kelly Gallagher, Kelso, Kimberly Polka, Kiwi Mochi, Christy Ehrlich, LePlan the Staff, Lisa Mary MPLS, Lori J. Revert, Mandy Milliken, Marcel Har, Maria Stein, Maria Yarmolich, Maria West, Maris B, Marty Miller, Mary Rose, Melissa Walker, Michael Curley, Michelle Herron, Nicole Ferranti, Mirka Grun Roos, Moa Edmond, Nelian, Niha Basu, Nicole Maroney, Nan Quinn, Nita Macy, PJ Plant Druid, Rachel Peterson, Robin L. Jennings, Sandra Cornelius, Sherry Kumar, Stephanie H2O, Tessa Martins, Tia B, TJWO, Trista Bailey, Tristan Thomas, Wendy Rossman, Xenia Green, Youth of the Walmut, Zaira Rivera, and Zlatko Niponi. A big thank you to my $3 patrons: Angelina Farnan, Kilone Constance, Daryl De Rosario, Eden C, Catherine Parsons, Kens Brown, Al Lindbergh, Lindsay Ann, Mary H, Nella, Saig Zera, Renee Church, Ringlobe, Sophia Rian, Tang Watanas Cool, and Wendy Foreman. And a thank you to my $1 patrons: one anonymous patron, Alice Borland, Brandon Pacheco, Christina Greengrass, Colleen Coyle, Levi Couture Helvetica, Amelia Bronson, Jolie Sullivan, Jonas Berghort Larson, Kayla Vavra, Kelly Ash, Chris Perez, Lauren M, Lauren Enzo Romanian, Luzmin Fernandez, Neely Spicer, Nerdy Kathy, Olivia Chin Mueller, and Tracy the Eye Miller.